Hi, I'm Owen Canfield with the opinion page here at the Oklahoman. I'm joined today by Raymon Huston, who's an associate professor of political science at Oklahoma Christian University. We're here to talk politics today. Okay. Big news. John McCain announced his pick for vice president, and I think surprised everyone by choosing Sarah Palin, who is the governor of Alaska. So first, give me your initial thoughts. What did you think when you heard the name?
Well, when I first heard that he appointed her, I was shocked, but then I was pleasantly surprised because she's a very strong conservative who,
right.
But the interesting thing about her is she does not just tote the Republican line. She's a very strong moral character individual. So it does sort of go with McCain's structure of being anti-party but still a conservative individual.
Well, the first thing the Obama camp said was, you know, you've named someone who was a mayor of a city of 9,000 in Alaska who has no experience at all. Does that lack of experience, will that matter, do you think, to the ordinary voters?
It's not really a lack of experience. It's the same way that the Republicans could strike at Obama and say he was a state senator of Illinois.
Right.
Since she was the mayor, she's also been the governor of Alaska. It's
right.
Just short term. But she's also already had dealings with Canada in trade policy, and she's dealt with Russia in terms of the fishing industry, because her husband is a commercial fisherman.
So she's not a total newbie.
Oh, no.
Right.
She does have, actually, I believe, more foreign policy experience than Obama does.
Right.
So I think she has a strong position.
Now, what about her Republican bona fides, as you mentioned? You know, she's a member of the NRA. She's a hunter and fisher, staunch conservative, mother of 5, delivered a child in April who was born Down syndrome, chose to have the baby, which I think would score a lot of points with social conservatives. Do you think the pick was really mostly an effort to sort of satisfy McCain's conservative base?
Yes. She is an extremely conservative person. But what I do like about her is that she doesn't tote the Republican line. She's a very strong conservative person with very strong Republican values, but she's not afraid to take on the Republican Party if they're in violation of anything.
Well, that gets me to my next point. You know, she was elected governor mainly on that plank, which is rooting out corruption in the GOP. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, she took down Randy Rudrick, who was the Republican leader when she was appointed the commissioner of the Oil Ethics Committee in Alaska. She ended up resigning the post because she saw there was strong ethical violations between the Republican Party and the oil companies.
Right.
And after she resigned, she blew the whistle on Rudrick, which essentially then caused him to be indicted.
Right.
She also took on Jim Clark, who was appointed to a commission right before her gubernatorial position, and she fired him prior to being indicted, because he was indicted on charges.
Right.
She's taken an active role rather than a reactive role in terms of ethics.
Well, and that's something that the Republican Party has really been reeling from the last few years. Many would say it cost them their majority a few years ago in the House. They kind of lost their way in terms of doing the right thing in Congress, and so maybe that's a refreshing change.
Oh, it's a wonderful change. She's going to be a very strong, ethical person, and I think if they build on that in the campaign, that will bring a lot of credibility to her.
What are your thoughts on the remarks she made today in being introduced? One of the things she did was throw some bouquets to some of her trailblazers, Hillary Rodham Clinton and Geraldine Ferraro, who came before her. I think that was a good touch.
I think it was a wonderful touch. She did a very good job. She was positive in her speech today versus when Joe Biden received the nomination for the Democratic Party. He was very negative against McCain. She was positive for the party, positive for the move, positive to the predecessor, the women predecessors, and how her focus of her speech was more on the fact that women have not lost their voice. Just because Hillary Clinton was defeated, women still have a choice.
Sure. You mentioned Joe Biden. He, of course, is the other half of the Obama ticket. You have an experienced, very veteran senator in Biden with a young, inexperienced candidate, Obama. And on the other side, you've got an experienced senator in McCain with a less experienced non-Washingtonian in Palin. Sort of a push in that regard, or how do you see it?
I see it being better for the Republicans because even though Biden is an experienced individual, he's also run for president in the primaries 3 times and has failed all 3 times miserably.
Right.
I think along with his experience comes a lot of baggage.
Sure.
She is essentially a newcomer to the national political spectrum.
Right.
Not many people know that much about her, and the more that we do know, I think it'll be in the positive light more than a negative.
At the end of the day, when you walk into the polling booth, does Joe Citizen really care who the vice presidential candidate is?
No, not really. The vice presidential nomination is good for a campaign position, but in the end, it is still going to be between Obama and McCain.
Right. Well, Professor Huston, we appreciate your time today. Great stuff. Please read more about this in the Oklahoman and on newsak.com.